President Trump is heading to Davos, Switzerland later on today for the World Economic Forum. European allies hope to de-escalate tensions over Trump's push to acquire Greenland.
It is not easy when we wake up every morning to new threats. Please convey that message to the president.
An endless accumulation of new tariffs that are fundamentally unacceptable, even more so when they are used as leverage against territorial sovereignty.
I would like to confirm that they are an ally, but then they have to behave like an ally. And if you talk about the Russian threat, it's not that great if the West is united, but we are not united, and Putin sees this.
But President Trump is not backing down. He posted about Greenland multiple times ahead of the summit, including this post of him planting the American flag in Greenland. He was also asked about what his push for Greenland means for NATO at a press briefing earlier today.
I think something's going to happen that's going to be very good for everybody. Nobody's done more for NATO than I have, as I said before, in every way. Getting them to go up to 5% of GDP was something that nobody thought was possible, and pay. At 2% they weren't paying. At 5% they are paying. And they're buying a lot of things from us, and they're giving them, I guess, to Ukraine. That's up to them, but they're giving them to whoever they're giving them to, but they're buying a lot. I think that we will work something out where NATO is going to be very happy and where we're going to be very happy. But we need it for security purposes. We need it for national security and even world security.
Let's bring in Bruen, the president and CEO of the Global Situation Room and former Foreign Service officer. Brett, great to be with you. You posted on X that Europe is taking Trump seriously and it's reducing intel sharing with the U.S. So that's pretty dramatic. What does this mean for global security?
Well, let's start with that just very practical implication of Trump's threats. If Trump, as he has suggested, is drawing up plans for the U.S. to take over Greenland, then our NATO allies are not going to be supplying the same level of intelligence, the same level of information. There's obviously just a lot of distrust at the moment with our NATO allies. And let's not forget, the Danes died in larger numbers per capita than any other country in Afghanistan after 9/11. So when we talk about the sacrifice, when we talk about a commitment to respond to threats against the United States, there are few others who can say they have the record of sacrifice, the openness to American bases on their territory than the Danes do. So it is really, quite frankly, appalling that we've put them in this position.
You know, Brett, we've seen the president, though, make big threats before, but we've seen him use them as a way to get to the negotiating table. Do you think that that's what's going on here with the threats of tariffs on countries that don't support his plans to take over Greenland?
Well, look, here in Switzerland, I can tell you that there are, on the one hand, are a lot of hopes that this is just another aggressive negotiating tactic by the president. And yet there's certainly frustration because Europeans felt like last summer they had a deal. They got the president to agree to an imbalanced deal. Well, Europe is going to pay 15% tariffs on their goods shipped to the U.S., but the U.S. is not paying a reciprocal tariff the other way. And now Trump is threatening additional tariffs. So I think it's a crisis of confidence. I think that Europeans simply don't know what to believe. They don't believe, even when they have a deal, that the deal will be respected by the administration.
I'm curious how you think Russia and China are reacting to all of this. Do you think they're concerned about their own security and trade assets, or are they seeing this as a window to possibly pursue their own ambitions?
Yeah, on that last point, you know, Trump liked to share the mock-up of almost the entirety of North America, along with Cuba, Venezuela, all with American flags. Well, there's a version of that the Chinese would do across the Asia-Pacific region. There's a version of that that Russia would do across Eastern Europe, even parts of Western Europe. So Trump is setting a very dangerous precedent here. And, you know, his claims of, well, we need to have it, we need it for our security, you know, if he does that, he breaks NATO. He diminishes what is a alliance of over 30 nations into defense of our country down to one single nation. As we started this interview, less intelligence, less military cooperation, less of a deterrent against adversaries like China and Russia.
I want to just ask you about this because I wonder about the dynamic going into this World Economic Summit. The U.S. is the strongest member of NATO. Is it possible, Brett, in the end, that these European countries, frankly, won't be able to stand up to Trump? Or do you think that this group of EU countries are a formidable opponent if they all unite?
I think, from conversations I've had in Davos, also in travels during this trip to other parts of Europe, the Europeans are just tired of Trump, and they know that if they give ground on this, he's going to come back for another round. And that, quite frankly, is something they want to put a stop to. So, no, I think you're going to see Europe leverage some of their own tariffs, but also some measures, they've talked about potentially pulling back investment from the U.S. And that could certainly, at a time when Americans are struggling with affordability, really bite.
Brett Bruen, thank you so much.